Hey YouTube.com, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and today I'm going to be discussing spoilers from Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and more importantly the question, is Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker? Really quickly, make sure you donate to the Kessel Toy Run. We need more toys for hospitalized children, Star Wars toys that go out to the kids and their siblings and they're stuck in a hospital. It's really fun for them to get Star Wars toys delivered to them by costume Star Wars characters by the Saber Guild. So it's a pretty good thing, so make sure you do it. It means a lot to me if you do. I really appreciate it. The biggest question I get asked if I do anything about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is Anakin Skywalker in the movie. And I have the answer. And I think the answer is going to make some people excited that it's just happening in any form, and I think the answer is going to make other people not excited because it might not be enough for them. And so it's not really up to me what they do, so don't get mad at me. It's their movie. So with that said, up front, Anakin is in the movie, obviously, but it's not what you would think. And if you've been following spoilers, it should be kind of obvious as to what it is. And that's that he is a disembodied voice. So in the movie, from what we hear, Rey and Ben Solo go to confront Palpatine. He's wanted to get them together this whole time so he can siphon the Force through them, with both of them together, and essentially rejuvenate himself. When we first meet Palpatine in the movie, he's like a decrepit old man. And as the story continues and Rey and Ben are finally brought to him, he does this little dark side trick, I guess, and in doing that, rejuvenates himself to his like Revenge of the Sith looking self. And with that in mind, both of our heroes are incapacitated on the ground. And the assumption and the thinking is that he throws Ben into the abyss of Exegol. And he does this out of revenge for what the Skywalkers did to him in Return of the Jedi. And with that in mind, Ben is, from what we understand, killed in those moments. And then Rey is on the ground and she's just out for the count. And then that's when the voices of the previous Jedi begin to appear to her. And the voices that I've heard were either recorded or appear in the film are the Skywalkers up front, which starts with Anakin and Luke, and then we end up getting Obi-Wan, Yoda, and then we move on to a lot of characters like Ahsoka Tano and Ezra Bridger, and Maz Kanata was recorded, but I don't know if she's in the movie or not, so I don't know. But she was recorded as a voice because she was a Jedi Force sensitive character, and she was important to Rey and the Skywalkers in this journey. Maybe it could have been a little bit more important, but she was important. And so with that in mind, also the very final voice that wakes Rey up is Leia, who was her Jedi Master in the end. So that's kind of cool, I think. And so basically you have Anakin as a disembodied voice in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker playing a part in waking Rey up. And I think the point of the scene is that all of these Jedi have led us to this very moment. And Rey is kind of like, if it was a baseball team, she's the one up to bat in the ninth inning when it matters. So they're all rooting for her. And a couple of other just side things to note. Before Palpatine siphons the Force from them, he is sending lightning up into the sky, which is like what I reported in the past, and an image did leak of it. And with that in mind, he's frying the fleet up above, and it looks really dire for everybody involved. But when the Jedi wake Rey up, she stands up, walks towards him, and that's when he stops shocking the fleet and looks at her, realizes it's a confrontation, And then he goes and he blasts his lightning at Rey. And when he does that super Palpatine Force version in this end of the film, it has Rey use cross her sabers and deflect it back at him, and that's what destroys him. So it's kind of a cool ending for Palpatine in that she essentially defends herself. Just like the ultimate Jedi move, you know, defense, not attack kind of stuff. And so when that happens, though, the whole arena starts to crumble and stuff. That the little stone throne that he's on, all that stuff starts to come down, and she has to bail. But Anakin is in the movie. Maybe not as much as I would have hoped. I would have liked to take a little bit more, something more significant, honestly. No, you know what? That's not the right word, because it is significant. It's super significant when Anakin shows up. Also, I think that the disembodied voices are kind of, in a weird way, a compromise about how they're going to deal with certain aspects of characters who appear in there. Like, does Maz Kanata appear? Because if she does, she's in the end battle. And I think she survives. So with that in mind, and Ezra Bridger, he could be dead because he's like Luke Skywalker's age. So he could be dead by then. Ahsoka Tano could be dead by then. You know, I mean, they would be into their, 60s and 70s by this point. But at the same time, it would mean that they have to commit to them being dead. And if those stories are still being written and not all the way told, maybe that's why they went with disembodied voices. I think it would have been cooler to kind of, show it as opposed to tell it in that sense. So I'm not completely, elated by this. At the same time, I think that it's a respectable choice still, though. I don't think it's, complete garbage. I don't think we should be all or nothing, because this trilogy is Rey's story. It's not necessarily about the characters, the Jedi who appear. Oh yeah, on a side note to that, I asked about Qui-Gon. I was told no, or the sources didn't hear him. And same thing with Kanan, Jarrus from Rebels. Didn't hear him either. And I don't think we need to hear from every single Jedi that ever existed in that moment. But the important thing to realize is that you can discern each voice, but they are layered. They kind of go on top of each other. And I'm not sure exactly if they all have the same line, but the gist of the lines is wake up or awaken. And that's what Rey does, and basically finishes off the Skywalker problem that started in episode 1. And with that in mind, at the very end of the film, Rey takes on the name Skywalker. So, and she was a Palpatine. So with all of that put together, you kind of see where Rise of Skywalker doesn't mean the rise of Anakin or the rise of Luke. It means the rise of that family and Rey continuing it on. Maybe not by bloodline, but by spirit and act and philosophy, yeah. I was kind of struggling with that word. I'm like, is it philosophy? Yeah. She ends up taking on the Skywalker philosophy. And I think it's really interesting how it kind of puts Anakin and Kylo, or Ben, kind of in the same kind of place. In the sense that Ben is pretty much Anakin when you get down to it, but he's not Darth Vader. And through this trilogy, he thinks he's Darth Vader. But when we get down to it, he decides, he and Rey have a confrontation. And in that confrontation, she wins because she starts to give in to the dark side, essentially. And when that happens, she bests him. He's unconscious. When he's unconscious, Han Solo appears to him and essentially tells him, you don't have to keep doing what you're doing, and you can help Rey. And he wants to. He doesn't want Rey to become what he is. He knows the inner turmoil and how awful it is to be that dark side dude. He doesn't want that for her. So he kind of gets up and he throws his weapon away. And in that moment, I think when he does that, he's now made himself worthy of being Luke Skywalker's apprentice. That's what Luke would do. That's what Luke did. And that's what he does. And then he pretty much goes into battle with no weapon, He fights the Knights of Ren before he goes to Palpatine, dispatches them and gets his butt kicked, but he does it, and has no weapon, he has no allies, and he knows he's not going to make it. And so he goes in there knowing that he's sacrificing himself for Rey. So it's a very like selfless act that he does. And in doing that, though, it does things that allows Rey to finish the job. And that's what Kylo wanted. Kylo wanted the evil to end. He had this thing he had to like do, and he did it. Now, does he come back? I don't think so, but I don't know for certain. No one really knows for certain if there's some secret big trick that's going to come at the last moment and be inserted into the film and go out the night of release. Like, nobody knows if that's happening, and it's conspiratorial. So I really can't, like, you can't contend with that like line of logic, because it could happen, but we could really only play with the information that we have, and the information that we have is that that's where his story ends. I was hoping his voice was going to be one of the voices that woke Rey up. And maybe it will be still. Maybe it is in there. Maybe nobody realized it. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like that is the case at this point. So he goes in there and he does what he had to do, and he saves Rey. And now Rey is the last Jedi. Not forever, but she's the one who's going to continue on the Skywalker legacy with this Jedi Order. And so I think he's going to be, I think in a lot of ways we should be happy about it. In a lot of ways I can see how people are overly invested in specific characters because it's like their favorite character. And so maybe it's not what they would have wanted. So we'll have to see how it goes and how it plays out. I would encourage everyone to watch the movie and not make snap judgments based off of information, because there's a lot of subtleties that you're not going to get in reading my report on MakingStarWars.net that you're going to get when John Williams is playing the music and Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley are doing the acting and JJ's doing the directing, and it's lit and it's beautiful. Without that, it's going to really be a much different, and it's going to be like a beat. You're just getting the beats. Like you're reading the sheet music, but you're not hearing the song, you know? So don't be too hasty in your judgment of that kind of stuff, because it could actually be really, really good. This could be the best Star Wars movie for all we know. We really don't. We don't know what it's going to be yet. So I think people making judgments now or off of spoiler information should chill a little bit. So anyways, if you like the video, like it. If you don't, because you don't like the information, don't dislike it. Just leave it alone. But let me know what you think and what you're hoping for. And also, I didn't write the movie. I didn't make the choice. I'm just reporting exactly what people who have heard content from the film and people who have seen the film have told me. So it's not up to me to direct the movie. It's not my fault. Okay, it's not my fault. But with that said, please make sure that you donate to the Kessel Toy Run this year. Every year we do a toy drive for children where we give toys to hospitalized children. And a bunch of people came together on Twitter and donated last night, which is why I released the story. So if we continue to make the Kessel Toy Run a really successful endeavor where we bring Star Wars toys to hospitalized children and their siblings, I will drop more of these videos, because I got more stuff too. There's a lot of stuff actually that can be dropped still. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you got your tickets because we're like 3 weeks away.